Welcome to chapter 10 of nutrition. This one is diet planning. So here we go. All right, so we're going to define the word diet, how energy intake and nutrient density are fundamental to diet planning. Create a one-day diet plan for an athlete based on the My Pyramid model, which again is going to follow the same as what we use now with the MyPlate. Translate sports nutrition recommendations to food choices and make practical suggestions for food and food intake prior to, during, and after exercise. Safety and effectiveness of caffeine and alcohol, in outline information included on supplement back labels, and discuss the role of supplementation in an athlete's diet. All right, so a diet is just a pattern of eating. A lot of times people think of the word diet as in some type of food restriction, but that's not it. It's just whatever your particular eating style, so to speak, is, would be your diet, right? So if you tend to eat a lot of Asian food, that would be your diet. If you tend to eat, a lot of fruits and vegetables, you don't eat near as many meats or anything like that, but, you're not really like, it's not like you're choosing to keep things out of your diet other than the fact there's certain foods you don't like to eat. Um, that's your diet, right? So it doesn't mean that you have to be on like the ketogenic diet. Doesn't mean you have to be on the paleo diet. Doesn't mean you're on a DASH diet or anything of that nature. You're on a vegan diet or something like that. It it can really be like um, you know Jay is on Jay's diet. That's my diet, right? Bob is on Bob's diet. Lisa's on Lisa's diet, and so on and so forth. Okay. So athletes should match dietary intake to training. Both energies and nutrient intakes are important. So again, it's really easy to get everything that you need in a lot of regards. Living in a country such as the U.S., where pretty much any type of food for the most part is available, it's easy to find, whether it's in grocery stores or at restaurants and things like that. What's difficult is making yourself get what you need. A lot of times we go and choose what we want. And sometimes what we need and what we want are two different things. And so getting the right nutrients and getting everything that you need is the big thing. The other thing is also exercise, right? Probably the biggest excuse for not having exercise is time. Everybody says, I don't have time, I don't have time. But I guarantee during this coronavirus, if you ask, like a lot of people, oh yeah, how many of you saw the Tiger King thing on Netflix? Like most of, hey, I saw it. Well, man, that took some time to watch that. None of us are any smarter after watching that. I mean, it was entertaining. Like it blew my mind that there's people like that out there. But yeah, we found time to watch, basically garbage-minded entertainment. We can find time for exercise. Okay, and again, it's some people think that they have to dedicate an hour and a half or whatever to getting like just straight exercise, and it's not that. If you've got 2 minutes here, 5 minutes here, 15 minutes there, whatever it is, just do that. I always tell everybody, it's like, yeah, more is always better, but something's better than nothing, and both of those hold true. If you've got a lot of time to dedicate to exercise, go for it. If you don't, and you've got to do like a few minutes here and a few there and whatever else, do that. It's going to make a difference. Okay. And sedentary lifestyle, again, if somebody, I don't like planning food choices for people in a sedentary lifestyle, because I'm going to honestly say my goal if I'm working with somebody is to get them out of sedentary lifestyle. There's, nutrition is half the battle in us being healthy. And again, you know, it's funny that they bring that up in this particular book, because this book's mostly about planning food for athletes. So athletes should not be sedentary in any sense. But my goal with anybody is I want them exercising. And like I said, I don't care what it is they do. I don't care how much of it is they do. You know, I mean, now again, depending on their goals, I'm going to tell them, like, look, you got to do this much if you want to reach those goals. But I don't care if you go walk 10 minutes a day. I don't care if you go play basketball for 20, 30 minutes a day with your friends. I mean, it honestly doesn't matter as long as you're doing something, right? I mean, it really doesn't. You just need to be out, be active, do something. Or you have this physical body that wants to go move and do things, and that's what keeps it healthy. And you need to take care of it in those regards, because at some point, if you don't, it won't move and do things when you'd like it to. Okay, and your health declines. And you know, it's I always tell my students this, and you know, when we have these type of chapters in class, is, you know, you've got a lifetime, you know, whatever it is, you know, whether it's 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, 80 years, you know, whatever it is, you've got this lifetime. And towards the end of that lifetime, do you want to be held up in a hospital bed, looking back, being like, man, because of the things I did, I now can't go do all these things that I'd like to do, you know, because we like to put off, you know, someday when we have enough money, and, you know, and again, that can be a limiting factor to us doing things that we'd like to do. But, you know, if it holds true that most people are going to have some money at some point, you know, later on in life, when all their kids are grown up, they now can retire, they've got the time, they have the money. But if they don't have a functioning body and the energy to go do those things, all these things we're hoping to do later, you know, that's frustrating to me to think that I'm like, man, I have the money now to go travel through Europe, but my body won't hold up to go do it, right? So again, take care of your body now, because you can go enjoy things now. And again, take care of your body now so you can go enjoy things later as well, right? So it's very important to do that. So basis of the diet planning framework: humans are designed to be biologically active. Active individuals need more kilocalories. Again, it's another, you know, again, you got to be careful when telling people this, because a lot of times like, oh yeah, I can eat more. Yeah, but if you're in a calorie surplus right now and you're trying to help you lose weight, let's not think in those terms, because again, by adding exercise and activity, we may get you to where now you're maintaining, or now you can lose a little bit, but now if you're adding more calories in, that's going to cause a problem. So don't think that way, but yes, there is truth in that. So if we're thinking about an individual who's at a certain weight, they're doing more work, they can now eat more too, okay, to match that, right? Higher caloric diets make it easier to obtain needed nutrients, which is true too, because if you can eat more types of foods and add more, you know, and add a better bouquet, so to speak, you know, if you think of flowers, you can add all these different flowers and colors into something. It's the same thing with the food. If you think of it like a bouquet, like, you know, instead of having just white, you know, like little white flowers, or, you know, little red roses or whatever else, and you got like this mix of all these things, the better mix of foods that you can eat, you're going to hit all your nutrient needs. Okay. Caloric need for athletes can range considerably. You know, some calories, you know, most anybody that's followed sports, you know, you've heard about Michael Phelps eating 10,000 calories a day. Now, I don't know if that's true. To me, that one seems really far-fetched. I mean, I see the man eating like 7,000 or 8,000 calories with all his training, but I mean, I'm not saying he didn't. You know, I haven't seen his daily training protocols or anything like that. Maybe he was hitting 10,000 calories. That's a lot of food, right? That's an extreme amount of food. A lot of, you know, and then there's other athletes that eat around 3,000 calories. I mean, that's a big range depending on their needs. Okay. Again, training cycles. Sometimes athletes, because of the seasons they have really heavy months where they're just training. Like, I mean, they're just going home just tired every day. And then they got other times where they're not is exhausting themselves so much. Maybe they're doing more skill related things. And so again, they're not trying to exhaust the body because they're trying to get the hand-eye coordination, the mind, and all those things. And so the physicality might be slightly less during times. And during other times, their skill set stuff might be less, but the physicality of it might be a lot more, right? And so again, like in off season, a lot of times they may like dial things down, um, and so it just really depends on the athlete. And again, daily intake is of no less than 30 kilocalories per kilogram is not typically recommended. Again, that kind of depends on the athlete, what sport they're in, and what they're trying to accomplish at that time, right? Because we have fighter sports where sometimes they got to go through these little times, or bodybuilding or things where they're really, they got to trim, in a short amount of time. Again, I think with bodybuilding, you don't necessarily have to use that approach. You can actually use a much safer approach to cut down, but in fighting sports, to maximize training times and things like that, they kind of have to do these short-term weight loss things. All right. So again, I don't really want to go through the sedentary and all that because it's basically giving the energy with that. And I'm, like I said, if I get a client, I'm not going to allow them to stay sedentary, right? But what you can see from here is going from the sedentary to moderate intensity training several hours a day to rigorous to extremely rigorous training. What you see is the energy expenditure between females and males, and you can see how much it just jumps. Okay, so you have a sedentary individual, sedentary female, and then you got that extremely rigorous. You get all the way down there. You're looking at possibly 20 kilocalories per kilogram per day more they're going to need in their diet. Look at the males, they're doubling the amount of kilocalories per kilogram a day, right? And so again, you're going to need more with the more intense training, right? And again, it's not something I like to entice people with when it comes to exercise. Is that, oh yeah, you can eat more. We kind of want to let that come as the needs come, right? And again, it's not, it's not always the best approach in getting somebody in the right mental state of keeping their body healthy. Now with athletes, it's usually different, right? A lot of times, athletes don't, especially young athletes may not worry about what they're eating, but then they're having trouble keeping weight on. I've got a little cousin that, he's got this issue. He just trains so much, he has trouble putting on weight. I'm sitting there, his mom called me one day and I had to kind of help her figure out where to add in some extra calories here and there. And again, I'm like, oh yeah, take them by, get a cheeseburger from a fast food. She's like, you don't really like food like that. It's, again, it's not really something. I'm like, all right, what will this kid eat? She's like, one of the things I realized is the kid likes all the dairy and stuff like that. I'm like, man, the kid needs to be eating some ice cream after dinner, right? He needs to, when he does his, when he do his protein shakes and things like that, are using water, using milk. We're using water. Use milk. He needs extra calories, right? And can he tolerate doing whole milk instead of skim milk? Just straight up vitamin D. And she's like, yeah, he can do it, right? He needs the calories to meet his training intensity. That's why he's losing weight. So we added some. I had to kind of figure out what he was eating, and just add some calories into the meals he's already having, plus give him a few extra things here and there to help him get his weight up so he wasn't constantly losing weight during the season. Okay. Again, this is just giving you an idea of the general training and how during different times the amount of exercise that's going on increases. And so then again, you'll see the times where the kilocalories per kilogram have to go up, right? Yeah, it just depends on the sport, right? So this is a female collegiate rower. Some sports, the training is very similar year round. Therefore, you may not see as much jump or, like where you see the calories jump up or jump down. Again, a lot of athletes you may work with, don't just have a one season. You know, you may have a soccer player that plays in the fall. They play a winter league, they play a spring league, they play a summer league. You know, I mean, you see a lot of that now. So the way that their training and their needs are going to be a bit different, and we see a lot of that with athletes these days. So dietary prescription, this helps athletes consume proper amount of macronutrients with energy needs. Consider carbohydrates and proteins first. Is the carbohydrates are your main fuel, the proteins help you to rebuild everything. Fats and alcohol, again, alcohol is not something that I usually like necessarily prescribe. It's just one of those things when I'm working with an athlete who's an adult that can drink alcohol and like, hey, I just want a beer here and there. You know, like I like to sit and drink some whiskey every now and then, whatever. Or, I like to have some red wine at dinner. Whatever it is, we try to figure out where do we fit that in. Okay. But again, fats, you know, there's putting those two together in the same category. I'm like, why would you do that? Because again, there's a lot of benefits in fats, and you know, definitely, you know, with some of the omega-3s and 6s and things like that, you want those in your diet because there's health benefits with that. And again, you need a certain amount of fat in your diet anyways, right? Alcohol, you don't have to have in your diet. Again, it's something that if you like it in your diet, we can work with that, but you don't have to have it. And again, add in discretionary calories. Discretionary calories is like you have, like I was looking at, that's my fun calories. So if throughout the day I leave myself like an extra like couple hundred calories where I'm not, you know, like where I need to be, and I'm like, all right, I can eat a little bit, you know, I can have some Oreo cookies or something like that. That would be some discretionary calories, right? So just something to, you know, because again, there's no such thing as good or bad foods. And again, when you think of things like that, Oreo cookies and stuff, you know, you have some folks, that's bad food, that's bad food. It's not. You know, a lot of times when you eat something like that, you know, like you have something that's chocolate or a cookie or whatever else, a lot of times there's a kind of a mental benefit that just comes from that. There's just something that like, man, you just eat that and you're like, oh, this tastes good. It just, man, I just needed that, right? And again, there's, you know, sometimes it's just like you have like something like that, you know, it kind of maybe takes a little stress off, it takes a little edge off. Those are good things. Where those foods get a bad rap is a lot of people eat above and beyond their calories with that. You know, instead of having like just a few cookies, they go through like a whole sleeve of Oreos, and now they eat like 1,000 and something calories in Oreos. Again, we can do that with any type of food, right? So, you know, you just got to be careful with the dosage, right? It's all in the dosage. All right, so again, discretionary calories reduced or eliminated. Again, I don't believe in eliminated, so don't pay attention to that part. Mild to moderate reduction in dietary fat. Again, one of the things is when you work with somebody, instead of making them pull a whole 180 in what they're eating, it's better to start chiseling down things. Like, okay, we're not gonna make you like stop eating this and then start eating these things. Let's just take, you know, let's not drink 3 64-ounce Cokes a day. Let's, you know, and again, you know, it may take you a while to get them to the diet that they need to be on for a while. Because again, if I've got somebody that's like addicted to soft drinks, so to speak, you know, then we kind of overuse the word addiction, but let's just, you know, that's what it feels like. You know, like you have things you're like, oh, please don't say that. You know, I love those. You know, so again, if they're drinking Coke like, you know, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, you know, you may start doing some little things like, well, you know, is there any way we can like maybe instead of having this much Coke at each meal, we can have this much Coke? Okay, that may work for some people, right? And we keep working them down, and eventually we take where they only have a Coke at lunch and dinner, we take away the Coke at breakfast and substitute coffee because they want a new caffeine, you know, whatever that is. Other folks, we may do some substitution, like, hey, have you ever tried Diet Coke? Right? You know, you won't get the calories and so on and so forth. And so you're like, yeah, I can drink it, but I don't really like it as much as normal Coke. I still want to have some normal Coke. Okay, that's fine. So we substitute out a couple of the, you know, 2 out of their 3 Cokes. Eventually, you know, maybe substitute 1 Coke out a day for a while with the Diet Coke and 2 so on and so forth. So there's different ways you can work that in reducing those things. And then eventually, they may not have Coke every single day. They may get to a point where they're like, okay, you know what? I can do Coke on Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, or I can get to where I can do Coke on Wednesdays, or I'll save it for a weekend treat, or I can do it every other week. Or, like they may get to those points. They may not, right? And so they just, they drink just a little bit of Coke every day, or they get where they're like, you know what? I just want to sit and have a big Coke once in a while. I'm going to do that like on Saturday. However it works for them, that's how it works, okay? And so what we're trying to get their intake is, and again, the below 30 kilocalories, I don't look at that when I'm helping people. I really don't measure things out a lot of times because me personally, when I'm trying to help folks out, it's a little bit different than what you're going to see in this chapter, is I take them where they're at and I try to slowly, like I told you with my cousin, I slowly increase a little things here if they need to gain some weight, and I slowly reduce things if they need to lose some weight. And again, I never take anything away from them because we all have that child mentality. When somebody says, no, you can't have something, guess what you think about all the time, right? So again, my whole thing is just reduction, right? So if we got to get their calories down, how do we reduce certain things that are not necessarily helping them towards their physical goals, okay? And again, larger deficits will make it difficult to train. So if you make them take out like hundreds and hundreds of calories a day, say they were maintaining, and you're like, all right, we're taking away 1,000 calories, man, they're going to feel just right. That's not going to work, because they still got to train, okay? And so again, it's like, like I'm saying, it's individualized. There's certain things that people are willing to give up. There's certain things that people are not willing to give up. And there's certain things that are reduced. There's certain things that are like, no, I need this and I need this much. Can we work around it? And you can, right? You just got to figure out how to do that. Again, so this is a dietary prescription for a 140-pound non-pregnant female athlete. Again, I personally don't get to the numbers like this. There's a reason why. I think when you get people really, like it's okay if they want to do like I don't mind having somebody do like a diet diary at first, and it's really not because I want them to get them in the habit of counting all their calories or counting all their carbs or counting all their protein, anything like that. I want them to see what they're taking. I mean, that's really what it is. I don't do it for when they start trying to eat better. I want them to actually account for everything they eat, because a lot of times people don't realize how much they eat. Okay? And especially, in our country, weight loss is usually the number one goal, because too many folks have gained too much weight because they just don't hold in check or believe what they eat. So that's why I do that. Once we start changing things, I don't like these because I've seen in most folks it tends to be where they get obsessed with it, or it's more detrimental, it's too rigid, it's too, there's a part of us that's very intuitive in what our body needs. We just got to get our body to understand what it needs and when it needs. And the problem is that when we let it, we just let the body have whatever it wants, whenever it wants, like a child, like a spoiled child, it likes to be spoiled, right? And so we've got to get the body to understand what it feels like to be disciplined without, like really hammering discipline. And I feel like when you do this too much, it does that, okay? But it can be useful at first. Again, if you've got somebody that's super type A and they want, break everything down for me, go for it. Okay, like if this works for somebody, go for it. Really not an approach I like to use with things. Now, again, when I'm looking at foods, and especially with athletes, I may be looking at, okay, I want to make sure they're getting this much protein, this many carbs, and this many fat, within everything else. So I may see it, but I don't really want them to focus on that, okay? Again, some tricks you can do to help people be more active. You know, things like, hey, I want you to use the stairs at work. You know, don't park in the front spots, park in the front back of the parking lot. You know, make sure to get up several times to go to the bathroom. If there's different, you know, if there's certain bathrooms, you know, like say there's several bathrooms on your floor in your business, you know, go to the furthest one when you go, come back, you know, it gives you some time to walk and, you know, stretch your legs and things like that. Those are all little tricks that you can do throughout the day to mobilize the body, have it expend some energy, and just be more active. Right? Underweight athletes. So again, I talked about this. You know, we're trying to add a little bit more, and it, you know, so they say 500 kilocalories per day increase. Really, again, individual. You know, like, you know, they're giving you a generality at the top, but again, when you work with athletes, and especially if you're working with athletes, you need to be very specialized in working with athletes. Which what that means is you don't do cookie cutter with athletes, right? We don't do cookie cutter with athletes. I mean, I honestly don't feel like you should do cookie cutter anything with any client that's paying you money. You know, I don't feel like they're getting their money's worth. I don't care what they're paying you, how much or how little. If you're good at helping folks with exercise and nutrition, and you really want to make a difference, you shouldn't go, okay, we'll look at 500. No, you look at that person and you work with them on everything, you know, and you work with, like, if you've got, say you've got 3 clients, you've got Sarah, John, and Isabel. You're going to sit with Sarah and figure out Sarah. You're going to sit with John and figure out what to do with John. You're going to sit with Isabel and figure out what to do with Isabel. And you're going to treat them like individuals. You're going to work on their plans like individuals. And I hope that not one of those diets looks anything like each other because you just got lazy. Okay? They all need to be done individualized for them so it works for them. This is why so many people fail, because we've got lazy trainers, we've got lazy nutritionists out there that are just, this is kind of how I do it for everybody, so here you go, right? How much are you eating out? Here you go. You know, they put it into a little formula calculator, spit it out, and it doesn't work. Practical tips for increasing energy intake in underweight athletes. They can increase the amount of meals they eat, or, you know, throw some snacks in. They can increase portion size with favorite foods. Reduce intake of beverages that don't provide any energy. You know, increase foods high in heart healthy fats such as nuts, nut butter, olive, and avocados. Again, you're going to take and ask them, what do you like? What do you don't like? Let's see what we can fit in there to help you gain a little bit of weight, right? Nutrient density. Again, we want them to eat more nutrients, right? More fruits and vegetables, more whole grains, beans, legumes, low-fat meats, fish, poultry, dairy products. But again, depending on their needs, they may have some other foods that are more calorie dense versus nutrient dense. But again, a nice mix of those things is what we're looking for. And again, if we can get them to eat more, like I'd be happy with a lot of folks if I can get them to eat 60, 40, or 70, 30 nutrient dense versus calorie dense. It's just because you get more vitamins and minerals that way. And a lot more fiber and things. It's just, and again, it's 60, 40, 70, 30. I'm not, I don't tell people not to eat certain foods. Okay. And low nutrient dense foods. Now again, it's all in how you want to say sugar. Like if they're talking about foods that contain table sugar, probably most of the time you're finding low nutrient dense foods. But if you're thinking sugars and the fact that any type of simple sugared food, well, what's in fruits? And again, a lot of fruits are very high in nutrients, right? Alcohol again is low nutrient dense. I guess it depends on what you mix your alcohol with. When sugar and fat are added, nutrient density typically will decline. So again, that makes the first part of that, if you throw in that last part, they usually helps you not all the time. So again, this is giving you an idea of the difference between having skim milk versus whole milk. And again, for most of us, the skim milk is really the way that we need to go. Right? We're trying to we're trying to lower our calories and so on and so forth. But again, the whole milk for others that are trying to gain weight there you go, right? I mean, you know, you look at the proteins are about the same, carbs are about the same, the fats are less, right? So again, that's where we lose most of the calories. Cholesterol, because there's less fats, we have less cholesterol. Calcium's pretty much on the money, and iron is on the money. So it just depends on your needs, right? So skim milk is a nutrient-dense food because it's rich in nutrients relative to its caloric content. Again, I don't really feel that whole milk is not a nutrient-dense food just because it has more calories either, because it has its place. All right. Here's more nutrient-dense foods. Again, you know, red meat is a nutrient-dense food. You know, a lot of vitamins in there. Fish, beans, pasta. You got tomatoes, kiwi. You know, all kinds of different stuff on there, right? And all those things have their place in your diet. You know, and it's good to have a good mixture. Again, nutrient density of sugar and alcohol. Um, you know, they have their place in your diet depending on what you like to eat and drink. So, but yeah, you can look at it where basically they're basically energy for the most part, right? Is what it is. You know, I mean, there's not many vitamins or minerals really in either one, but again, they can play their part in your diet. Okay? And again, you know, it's a challenge to consume nutritious diets when low nutrient-dense foods are inexpensive, widely available, highly advertised, and tasty. I agree with the last part. You know, yeah, why do we choose them? Because they do taste, you know, a lot of times they taste better. So, you know, you know, you walk through a restaurant, man, that smells good. Nobody ever walks by and like, oh man, the salad smells amazing. You know, you know, it's the burgers, the Arby's sandwich, the, you know, whatever else that's there that, you know, just catches your senses, right? And that's what it is. It's a choice. And again, you can choose to eat those things. It's fine. You can have a very healthy diet. Go eat some Arby's every now and again. Go eat some of that wings walk over there. I've never been to wings walk. You know, McDonald's. But it's okay. It's just we don't want those to be the primary sources in your diet, right? You know, they're nice when they're sprinkled in. Um, Again, guidelines for meal planning. Food intake patterns. My pyramid is especially useful for those with little knowledge of nutrition. You know, go to the My Plate, right? So again, we don't have My Plate anymore. Go to My Plate. Go through there. You know, if you're trying to help your friends or parents or somebody that, you know, like doesn't really know much about things, get them looking in there, or again, get them checking what you're telling them. Okay? There's good information in there. Individualizing diet plans. The key to diet planning involves new dietary patterns and modification of your diet. Again, the dietary patterns, if they're going to have a whole new pattern, I like to ease them from what they're doing now to the other one. Don't just, you know, like, all right, you're doing this now, you know, scrap it, we're doing this, right? That's usually key for most people to keep referring. Now, are there people that, you know, like folks that you met that have quit cold turkey smoking or things like that? Yeah, it happens. But you know, when you're looking at the odds, a lot of times most people that try that stuff fail and fail and fail. So again, small movements will make the big changes because those are the ones that will stick eventually. Okay. So here's an intake pattern from the My Pyramid. Again, this is similar to what you find on My Plate. You guys can look through this one and go through all that. Again, here's a one-day diet plan. Now, again, this class is not for folks in dietetics. It's not for registered dietitians. So again, because of that, you've got to be very careful in helping people with their food stuff because they're depending on where you practice and what state. If you did something like this, you would definitely be overstepping your bounds. You know, if you go get a nutrition certification, but you're not a registered dietitian, this can be overstepping your bounds big time. So be very careful with doing this. You know, saying that you take, you know, tell them to have half a cup of sweet potatoes. Personal trainers, it's not really in your wheelhouse. Now, there are some states that are a little bit more liberal and they allow you to do. You know, in general, My thing is play it conservative and just say, look, you're looking for stuff that's high in potassium. Look at bananas, look at this, look at this. Like I don't tell them to eat it. I just point them in directions, right? And then I tell them like, okay, well, it's going to be about this many calories. So if you want to fit that much in there, or if you want to eat half a banana on this day and say the other half, whatever that is, that's what you can do. Okay. Again, learning to cook is a good idea because you can make sure you get the nutrients you want in the right amounts that you want. Okay, relying on other folks to do that, and especially, sometimes it's hard. Like, say if you live at home, you live with your parents, and your parents aren't really down with eating more nutritious, so to speak, the way that they look at things. So you're an athlete, and let's say you're having to reduce your calories. So you're like, all right, well, I want to use more skim milk when I'm cooking. I want to try to go for some fat-free ingredients in here, and so on and so forth. And mom may not be down with that because she doesn't like you messing with her. She's not going to mess with her recipes. These are recipes that maybe her grandmother taught her mom, who taught her, or your dad, he learned to cook this way from his dad, or whatever it is. They were like, well, no, we use real butter. We don't use any fake butter. That's blasphemy, right? You can't do it. So again, if you can cook for yourself, you're in control of what you eat. Again, if you're going to fast food restaurants, you can either reduce the amount of food you eat, so like get the small size adult meals or kids meals. You can go grilled versus fried. You can substitute maybe stuff that's got more fruits and vegetables in it versus the burgers and fries, so to speak. Going for the salads. Now again, you got to be careful with the salads. A lot of salads can be very caloric dense as well. There's a great commercial, when they say, I can't remember if it's Budweiser, one of those, they used to do this salute to this guy commercial, and one of the salutes was salute to the guy that invented the taco salad. Only you can make a salad that's over 1,000 calories, that type of thing. Again, just because it's a salad doesn't mean it's the better choice, right? So again, you've got to be aware of what's in what you're eating and how much calories and so on and so forth, right? So here's some options on here. Again, food and fluid intake prior to exercise. You want to provide energy for exercise, particularly carbs. You want to have enough so you delay fatigue during prolonged exercise. You want to prevent hypohydration and excessive dehydration, and you want to minimize GI distress. So you don't want to eat foods that upset your stomach. And again, you don't want to feel hungry, right? So these are all the things you're combating to make sure that you're prepped and ready to go when you're exercising. Okay? We've talked about this in previous chapters. It's trial and error, right? So you want to work and adjust these things during practice, on days of practice that will maybe tax your body about the same as a competition day. Work on your pre-game meals, work on all those things, work on like trying to take in foods or fluids or things during competition on those days, because you don't want to play with it the day of competition, right? Because again, Murphy's Law, whatever can go wrong will go wrong. You think, oh yeah, I think that won't upset my stomach. It probably will. Okay, so again, mess with those types of things during some training days so that you can make the adjustments the day of. And then again, the day of, also understand people tend to be more nervous on competition days, so you may have to make some last minute adjustments as well. Okay. And they said at the bottom of that, the wrong pre-comp meal can be detrimental, and it's more important to avoid that than actually trying to get the exact perfect right one, right? You just don't want to have the wrong one. That can really mess you up. Again, carbohydrates before exercise, about 1 gram per kilogram if consumed an hour prior, 2 grams per kilogram 2 hours prior. Again, it's really going to be trial and error with the person. These are just some recommendations. You can go through here and look at these if you're working with somebody and you're trying to kind of get some ranges to look at. But again, they're individuals, so they're going to have individual needs and issues. sample pre-comp meals for a 110-pound athlete. You know, 1 3-ounce, 2.5 ounce bagel, 2 teaspoons light cream cheese, 12 ounces orange juice, 8-ounce carbohydrate beverage. Again, it's going to depend on the athlete. Some athletes may not like those foods. You may sit heavy. Some athletes may feel, you know, you just got to play with it, right? So just a sample. Don't take it as this is what you're going to do, right? Again, you want to take in during exercise things that will provide energy. So again, you know, Gatorades and things like that have sugars in them, so you get carbs. Things that'll delay your fatigue, prevent you to be in hypohydration, excessive dehydration, prevent excessive changes in electrolyte balance, and replace sodium with philosophy large. So again, that's why, you know, like getting the goos and water, getting like Powerade and Gatorade and all those other things, they work well. Again, you know, Gatorade's very sweet, so when you drink it, you kind of want to drink more and more. That helps out in that regard. Then the only issue with that is if you've got somebody that you're working heavily with, you're trying to reduce your calories, you know, look for like the G0 or the G2 that has some calories if they need some calories, or the G0 that has 0 calories, but it's got all the electrolytes. Right? Use and source of fuel during marathons. Again, this is going to be depending on how they exercise. Again, most of the energy that's going to be used during a marathon is going to be mostly glycogen and glucose, right? And this is going exercise time by hour, right? So one of the things, this is kind of a weird graph the way they do it, but yeah, if you look at most really good marathoners, they're going to be just slightly over the 2-hour mark, you know, like the top runners in the world. Your average folks are going to be in that 4-hour mark. And again, most of them don't know how to necessarily push really hard either, so they're going to probably run at a cruising speed. So cruising speed runners are going to probably utilize more fat somewhere in the race because they're going to be in a very, very submax running state during the marathon because they just want to finish and make it through, right? So a lot of them, you know, they kind of find that nice speed that they feel comfortable in, they go. Now, competitive runners are different. They will run the 26.2 in a very non-comfortable running pace because their goal is different. They're wanting to win. They're wanting to set, you know, or if they're not wanting, you know, if they can't win, they're wanting to set a new PR, right? So they're going to push. This one, when you push, we're using mostly carbohydrates, right, or glucose, you know. So that's going to be the more important fuel for them. Yeah. And again, when they run out of that stuff, yeah, their body's going to start utilizing more of the fatty acids versus the glucose because it's forced to. But it's going to really depend on the athlete themselves. Right? Again, nearly every marathon runner has a story about hitting the wall. It really depends on their goals again. Like I said, you know, if you're at cruising speed, you know, and you've ran 20 something before and you're like, all right, this is a nice speed. I just got to get 6 more miles out of it. I feel good. I don't feel completely dead or taxed. Probably not. Now, again, any runner, if you think about really any runner that runs any type of distance, and like you think 3K and up, any of them that really are trying to set those PRs, they're all going to tell you about that. Like, there's that point at which you're like, man, I don't know what my body can put up with. And again, you know, sometimes with some runners, that's just pacing. You know, they too much too soon. Some of them, you know, they're going to hit that wall no matter what, you know, and the goal is to try to hit the wall later in the run. Like, you know, so again, like if you're running a 5K, you don't want to hit that in mile 1. You don't really want to hit it in mile 2. Now, if you can hit it somewhere around towards the end of mile 3, you know, you pace yourself well, right? And that's really, you know, so again, that's kind of the goal of how you do that. Part of hitting the wall, you know, it's not just the energy that's there, it's the prep, right? Did you have enough energy? Did you prep to have enough energy for that race? You know, if it's a long race for you, were you taking in energy and so on and so forth? Again, your training status will play into that, right? And again, did you pace yourself well, right? Running is a mental game. You've got to pace yourself just right? Food and fluid intake during exercise. Again, in limited carbohydrate stores as endurance exercise continues, higher percentage is derived from blood glucose. Liver glycogen tries to compensate, but gluconeogenesis capacity is limited. Carb intake allows blood glucose concentrations to remain within normal ranges. And studies show carb intake of about 30, 60 grams an hour can delay fatigue. Again, it's going to depend on the person what they can get in. And intake is beneficial for endurance, ultra endurance, and stop and go athletes. Okay. Athletes in intermittent high intensity sports also benefit from carb fluids during training or competition. Benefit of these type of sports is usually you have some times where you can actually go over to the sidelines and get things, right? Some sports that's a little bit harder to do. Again, customized fluid and electrolyte intake plans. Again, this will give you some guidelines, and you may be way above or way below what the person is working. Okay. Again, here's some more guidelines. Big thing on this one is the part which is customized plan, right? So again, we're not going to go through all these because these are just some suggestions based on folks looking at the 80-20 thing, right? Some of you that have, some of you younger folks may not have known Chris Paul played for the Hornets. So yeah, what the book is, but again, they may have a mix. You may see the same athlete that's drinking Gatorade during one timeout, maybe drinking water. Again, because of whether or not they need more energy or more, electrolytes and things like that. There may be times they just drink the water. There may be times they're like, look, I need a little bit of a kick. I need carbs and make sure my electrolytes are up. So it's just going to depend on the athlete and the timing and everything. And again, afterwards, the things you really want to replace are the most important, again, carbohydrates, so we can start building up the glycogen stores again. Proteins to start rebuilding and repairing muscle tissue, start regenerating your enzymes and hormones and that, because you tax these systems during really intense exercise. Okay? Again, you want to make sure to rehydrate. You establish hydration, so make sure you get your water and electrolytes and things in. And again, you don't want to take in foods that are going to mess with your stomach afterwards either. Okay. And again, the timing afterwards is going to be different for some. Some people, as soon as they're done with something, man, they're starving and ready to go. Other folks are like, man, I need some time to let my stomach calm down. Right? Again, individualized. Okay. So again, it's, if you're trying to prep, so, like say you got a game today and then you got to start training again tomorrow, whatever else. Yeah, it's best as soon as you're done, you can really start building things up. But again, you don't want to start building things up at the expense of your health not feeling good. Right? So, you do it as soon as you can. You may have to ease into it. Some folks, like I said, some people can eat right afterwards. Some people just need some time. Right? Again, these have some more ideas of like how much of what you need within the first hour. It's really, like looking at the medium to high glycemic foods and stuff. I honestly feel like it really depends on the person and what they can take in. And again, these are not bad guidelines by any means. I'm not saying that. It's just going to depend on you and what you feel like taking in. And a lot of times that's the big thing is like, do you feel like taking that stuff in? Okay. All right, so protein, you want to take it immediately after exercise just to start rebuilding as soon as possible. That is important for the anabolic window, so to speak, although, for those folks trying to get that extra edge over the time span, it gives you that little bit, but it's not a huge importance in that regard. Again, best thing to have afterwards, if you're gonna have a meal, get some meal with like some chicken or something in it, or, some beef eggs, whatever you want. Or, again, you can do a protein shake, drink down some Gatorade on the side or something. That way you get your carbs and electrolytes and water and whatever you want. Okay. Um, chocolate milk's a good mix of a lot of things. You just, you got to figure out what you're willing to do or what they're willing to do when you're working with somebody. Again, immediately try to start building up fluid and electrolytes afterwards. So make sure that, they're getting that. And again, they don't have to get the electrolytes with the water. So they don't have to drink Gatorade or something like that. If they're going to drink fluids and then they're going to eat at the same time, a lot of times the foods will probably have some electrolytes in them. So again, like if they have foods that have, like something that's got a bit of salt to it and stuff like that, you're good to go, right? Again, this is giving you like best case scenario type of thing for folks, depending on, if they really back themselves out, here's what they need. Again, this may not work for everybody. So you guys post the notes, you can read through this, but we're not going to spend a lot of time on it. Caffeine, legal and socially acceptable stimulatory drug, right? It is a drug. I love it. I drink it. Primary ingredient is methylxanthine, considered safe at low dosage. Actually, it's really safe in a lot of doses. If you see a lot of, if you've seen a lot of literature that comes out lately, you can actually get, depending on what you call low, medium, high, and it depends on the person, right? I know some folks have a little bit of caffeine bouncing off the walls. I know other folks can drink caffeine all day and they're nice and smooth and calm. So it's going to depend on the person, okay? And again, in certain sports at certain levels, there's only a certain amount of caffeine they may be able to consume. So if you're working with athletes, in certain levels of sports, you need to know the levels of like how much caffeine intake they can have, how much creatine intake they can have, how much protein from powdered sources are there. Sometimes they have these rules, and you need to be aware of it. Okay? Again, this is giving you an idea of the caffeine content in different drinks. We won't go through these, but just a good idea to take a look at your, sometimes, especially if you're wondering about things that you drink or your clients drink or eat. Caffeine, it's safe. Again, some people may have slightly adverse effects, but in most general healthy people, no major issue. Again, it may increase blood pressure at rest or during exercise. Again, it depends on the person. May increase heart rate, and some folks, they're still pretty calm when they have it. Some folks, like if they drink coffee, they need to go to the bathroom, so it can cause GI stress, and depending on what substance they get it, can cause insomnia. Some people, if they have caffeine late at night, they can't go to sleep. So again, you just got to play with it with the athlete and how much they can take when they can take it. It can be a performance enhancer. Fatty acid mobilization increases, but it doesn't spare muscle glycogen. Again, it's effective as a central nervous system stimulant. For weight loss by itself does not really result in major, you can't just sit there and load up on caffeine. Again, you will see it in every major weight loss, fat loss type of pill or whatever. But again, it's not going to make huge difference. It's not going to just caffeine up, do a lot of nothing, and see fatten up off your body. It doesn't work. Will enhance the effect of ephedrine, although ephedrine, and all those have become banned in all those type of supplements. Again, alcohol, you don't need it, but if you do want it, you just got to understand that you are going to get calories from it. Again, your body, when you have it in the system, is going to metabolize that first, so how much you're taking and all that. And again, alcohol contains 7 kilocalories per gram. So it's closer to the same amount of, like fat is 9 kilocalories per gram versus carbs and protein at 4. Okay. Again, here's some ideas of how many calories are in different drinks. So there you have it. Again, dietary supplements and ergogenic aids. All right, so the last part of this, right? Dietary supplements and ergogenic aids. There's minimal regulation in the US. Again, supplements can contain banned substances, so you gotta be aware of that. Except for creatine, most have not been really well studied, or a lot of them have mixed results. Um, so, you know, really the things, like if you're looking at things that have been well studied, so some of the stuff that we've talked about in these chapters has been well studied, that people supplement in that we know works well. You know, supplementing in protein powders, especially whey, there's a lot of great studies that show the benefits of that. Creatine, a lot of great benefits in creatine, and then caffeine. All right, so those are really the three somewhat ergogenic aids, and a lot of the other stuff, you know, some of them are dependent on where you are in your training, like HMB, and a lot of the other ones, it doesn't mean that they don't work. They may work for some folks, and may not work for others. So again, outside of those three things, I really don't do a lot of recommendation for folks, just because. Um, Again, the other problem you run into is let me pause this for a second. All right, we'll just finish it. Okay, so again, nothing's really been shown in a lot of those. The other thing is too is a lot of times the FDA doesn't step into supplements until somebody kind of raises a red flag on them. Okay, so because of that, what's on the label isn't always what's on there. Okay, so you've got to be really careful with that. So again, not many of them have been really shown to enhance performance, so you got to be very careful with that. Again, use a professional, be very unbiased. So again, there's a lot of science on creatine. I'm, you know, like I feel comfortable saying, okay, yeah, use creatine. I don't sell supplements, and again, I feel it's wrong as nutrition folks, or as you know, especially fitness professionals that work with athletes. I don't think you should work for supplement companies, because you have a different agenda, right? You're trying to make money. You're not trying to help your athlete. Again, I don't like, you know, multi-level marketing companies, because that's the way they work, right? They get folks that are in fitness, and they get them to try to peddle their stuff on people, and a lot of times they end up recommending things to people that they don't need. Okay, and so it's just you know, like I feel it's unethical. Okay, if you feel like it's okay, you know, like in the sense of like, oh yeah, you know, like I tell people, like, you know, yeah, get a whey protein. Whey proteins are great. I don't do it by brands. You know, what I usually do is somebody will ask me, well, what should I take? I'm like, all right, there's a lot of good brands out there. All right, so what would you recommend? I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go to Costco today, and I'll see what's on sale and see if it's a good thing. And if it's a good deal for you, I'll tell you need to go there and get that. I don't get any money off of that, right? So when I, you know, like if you want to recommend things, I don't feel like you should have a monetary benefit in doing that, because if they're already paying you as their trainer, they need to trust that you're going to give them good information. Okay. Again, a lot of things don't, you know, anything that I tell folks to take, there's not really any side effects with it, so I don't have to worry about that. Okay. And again, serving size, amount, and all that stuff, really what you got to look at is the size of the athlete, what they need, and then two, if there's any restrictions on that. Because again, depending on what level of athlete they are, there may be restrictions. And so you got to be careful with that. All right. So again, you read supplements just like we do food. It'll have all the, you know, like what the ingredients are. Sometimes it'll say it's some like, you know, trademark blend of something. I don't really like that when I see that either. You know, again, it'll, you know, the thing to pay attention to on the back is to see, is it what it says it is? Does it have anything extra in it that is you don't need? You know, do you need multivitamin and mineral supplements? Multivitamins, I don't have as much of an issue. like a lot of times the multivitamins will have some of the minerals in them, like iron and stuff like that. So, a general multivitamin is usually okay. And again, get it from reputable brands. And especially ones that have send their stuff off to third party. Same thing with any supplement. You should have ones that will send it off to third parties to basically validate what's in it is what's in it, right? Again, benefits going to depend on whether you really need it. Some people don't know that they get certain things, so you may be wasting your time on it, right? You may be eating enough of particular vitamins and minerals, right? Again, protein supplementation, we've talked about that. It's convenient. It's not any more effective for increasing your muscle mass, like if you're going to eat steak, chicken, or anything else, but it may be a way to get like a high dose of it in less, like I just drank a protein shake a little bit ago. It takes me probably like 5 seconds to drink the shake. So it's time, it doesn't take as much time. And I can get in 50 grams of protein, in a matter of 5 seconds, and I don't feel full. Whereas if I was going to eat 50 grams of protein in a sitting, it's going to be a lot harder for me to do that, okay? Herbal supplements, again, I don't like them as alternative medicines because, it's one thing, like if there are some benefits to some herbals, again, they need to be very well researched before I'm going to take them or tell someone to take them. One of the problems we run into with folks that are on herbal supplements is they may also be on medication, and sometimes herbal supplements may counteract with the medicines people are on. And so again, if you're on those, you need to be very clear with your doctor that you're on them. And again, you need to research these things because there are some of them, if you take them in large amounts, they can actually be detrimental to your health as well. Okay? Again, periodization, nutrient periodization is going to be dependent on what their periodization is and their plan for their training. Okay, so we're going to talk about that earlier. It's just kind of bringing that back up. And here's, this gives you an overview of what that might look like. Again, I'm not going to go into this complete slide because it's, we've talked about these things, you guys know about this, and this just gives you another idea. So again, athletes need comprehensive nutrition to match the demands of what they're doing. Again, they should try to get as much of it from food first, then we'll start adding in some supplementation stuff later. Again, diet planning, it is individualized. It should always be individualized. The athletes and the trainers need to develop specific strategies so they can meet their food needs so that they can perform well. Those who choose to consume caffeine or alcohol in moderation is recommended. Again, the caffeine, there's really some studies show that, what they used to tell you you can actually have quite a bit more. Not like huge amounts, but that has changed over time. Also understand what's legal, like ethical, safe, for certain people. There may be contraindications with certain health issues people have, so if you understand that. Same thing with herbs, botanicals, make sure you know what they are, know what they do, not what somebody tells you they do. You need to read the research on those to make sure that they don't have some, because they could have side effects mixed with other things, or again, they may be causing health issues for folks. Okay. And so just be aware of those, all right? Okay, that's it. If you guys have questions over this, we'll go over this again from the Blackboard Live. And I'll answer any of those there, but please watch these prior to doing, we actually have those, and I hope this helps.